It's been a while. Not because I vanished, but my PC, along with many other things, were being shipped here to Japan. And for a while, my whole creative setup was floating somewhere across the ocean in cardboard boxes. But everything is finally back to normal. Everything's running again, and before I dive into the bigger videos I've been working on, I wanted to make something smaller, more immediate. Because I've been thinking a lot about Monsters and Memories this past month. If you saw the recent update, you already know, early access got pushed back to October 1st. And honestly, I completely understand why some people would feel discouraged hearing that. MMO fans have been conditioned to expect disappointment, especially with games trying to revive older design philosophies. We've all seen projects lose momentum before. So, when I opened up the Reddit thread discussing the delay, I expected the usual mood. Frustration, cynicism, people assuming the worst. That emotional retreat where people stop believing. But instead, it's not really what I found. What surprised me was how many people were actually supportive. Not blindly positive, just understanding. People saying, take your time. We'd rather have a stronger foundation. Don't rush it. And the more I thought about it, that reaction made sense to me. Because while release got delayed, the project itself doesn't feel stagnant. If anything, it feels more alive lately. The devs have been talking more openly about systems, directions, class identity. And honestly, some of the recent class updates made me more optimistic. Speaking of class changes, I've always thought that the EverQuest Ranger class identity was difficult to put my finger on. Yet, in spite of this, I always thought they're really cool, and when I saw a high-level Ranger, I really respected them. So when I played in the Monsters and Memories Open Alpha, I gave Ranger a try. It was fun, but it still felt like my class identity wasn't solid. In a game with archers and druids, a ranger felt a bit more like the weaker version of both of those. So, one thing I loved about the recent update is they're trying to move away from the old idea of rangers just being fighters with weak druid copy-paste spells attached to them. Instead, the class actually feels like it's developing its own identity, its own philosophy. Something more survivalist, more adaptive, tactile, more grounded, using tools and interacting with the world itself. That kind of design thinking matters to me, because memorable MMO classes, of course, they're not just mechanics, they're fantasies and archetypes that people emotionally connect to. That goes back to D&D, EverQuest, you know what I'm talking about. And honestly, I'm just scratching the surface with the class changes. Ranger is something I've been very attached to. My Deep Elf Spellblade is something that might end up becoming one of those classes for me too when they release down the line. And seeing them continue to flesh these ideas out during development, it doesn't feel like a project shutting down to me. It feels like a project just still searching for its soul. And there's the detail that really stood out to me in the delay announcement. Because alongside the delay, they also said Module 1 is now expected to launch with early access. That's important, because this doesn't feel like they pushed the game back just to buy time. It feels like they're trying to make the launch itself more complete. And I think that's why I'd call this healthy optimism. Not blind faith, not pretending the risks aren't real, but just realizing when something still has energy behind it. When the people making it still seem deeply invested in what it becomes. When I read these updates from Monsters and Memories, I still see people asking deeper questions. What makes this class memorable? What makes exploration meaningful? What makes players stay attached to a world for years? And honestly, those questions matter more to me than hitting a launch window perfectly. So yeah, the launch got delayed. But I can see the lights are still on, and sometimes that matters more than people realize. Anyway, This was more of a check-in than one of my larger videos. I've got a couple other projects in the works now that my setup is finally back together. But this felt worth talking about while it was still fresh, because the work that's happening right now is shaping up to be something worth the wait. Until next time.